Hello everybody, my name is Marcus and I'm a fibre artist living in Scotland, and today I'm going to be taking a look back at the projects I've been working on over the month of October. My last video was the October projects update video thing. Um, it was intended to be the September updates video, but then I recorded it in October, so I called it October. But I prefer these update videos to be filmed at the end of the month and looking back at that month. But it's now November and I'm talking about October, so it is what it is. I've been really busy as always. But I've just been really stressed out this past month and just pretty overwhelmed with things. But I've actually managed to get a fair amount of things done. For me. But so I'll just jump right in and start with the only finished object I have to show off, which if you've seen my last, my most recently updated video, you will have seen this. But if you didn't watch it, I'll quickly go over it again. But I have woven a rag rug dog bed. And here it is in all of its glory. So this project, it's all waste materials that I've used essentially. The warp, which is these threads here, that is all cones of merino nylon yarn. It's still totally usable, but I use this for self-striping. When I'm dyeing self-striping yarn, I use a cone, but I'm always left with less than 100 grams on a cone, and I typically only sell self-striping as 100 grams. Occasionally I do 50 grams, but typically I do 100. So I can't use this for dyeing. So I have like a vast collection of these. It's still totally usable yarn, just not for its intended purpose. So I thought I would use this, and then the rags, the strips of cloth that have been woven through as weft, they're all clothes that the dog ripped when she was a puppy. I mean, she's still a puppy and she still destroys things, but at a much reduced volume than initially, as I'm sure you can imagine if you have ever had a small creature living in your house. So it's all t-shirts, and I've cut those t-shirts into strips, and then we'll go this way, and then those strips have been used as the weft, and woven through. So I did weave. It was woven as one long strip, and I've then folded it over to this kind of size. And because it's kind of double-sided, it is quite thick. There's a good kind of cushion to it. So this is going to be the dog's main bed. This is more of like a day bed, if you will. It's because I'm kind of trying to get her used to being in this room, which is my it's where all my yarn is, but it's also kind of where the laundry goes. It's the everything dump it room. So basically there's a lot of things for her to take and investigate, and if she's in this room with me, she's a little bit restless because she just doesn't really know what to do, where to go. So by kind of making this rug, I can give her her own space so that she kind of knows what to do. I can give her that command of, go to bed, and she has somewhere for her to relax. I mean, I wouldn't mind if she came up on the sofa, but she doesn't really like the sofa for some reason. I think it's just unfamiliar. Because even when I put this on the sofa, she just wanted to play with it and chew it. Which she has already damaged it very, very slightly, but it's fixable. Let me see if I can find... She managed to snag one of the warp strands and create a small hole. I don't know where it's gone. Yeah. Okay, it's lost to the ages, apparently. Oh no, I found it. So here it's here. There is the strand that she snapped, and it's not actually the warp, it's where I've sewn the two sides together. That's what she snagged. So that's not, it's not a structural issue that's going to cause greater problems. I can fix that very easily. And I've made this project with the full knowledge that it's not going to be like lovingly taken care of by the dog. I'm fully aware that she's a Czech wolf dog and she's going to want to destroy things. So I've kind of, before I even, warped up the loom to start the project, I already had kind of ideas of how I would, repair this when it inevitably gets damaged. Yeah, so that's my rag rug. So that, as I said, that's the only finished object that I've done this month. But in my last project update video, I forgot to show you the what would you even call it? The sweater that I knit for a plant pot? I don't know. I'll show you that just now, but it's in situ with a rather large plant, so I'll take you to the plant pot rather than bring the plant pot to you. So this is the plant that's living in here, and as you can see, it's quite large, so you can't really see it all day. But this is the plant pot sweater that I knit. I did add some cables. It's a little bit oversized, kind of a slouchy sweater, if you will. But yeah, like it's not something that gets seen because typically I have plants in front here as well. I've moved them just to show you it. And because of the size of the pot, when I was looking at actual just normal decorative pots, all of the options I had were really expensive. And I just kind of thought, it's never going to be seen anyway, so let's just do something DIY. Overall, I mean, it is way too big. I actually had to kind of cinch it in at the back. I just kind of sewed basically this whole chunk together in the back. And it's still really, really loose, but it's fine, it's functional. There's just a plastic carrier bag on the inside just for any excess water. So it's perfectly functional, it does the job, it looks okay, and you don't really see it. So onto my works in progress. I have here my officer sweater. The pattern is by Maxim Sear. So last time I will have shown you that the front was finished and I had just started the back, but I've made a good amount of progress on the back. I'm maybe halfway through, and I've just started another colour change. I don't think, when I say just started, I really do mean that, just started. I'm on the second row. But yeah, so that's about halfway up. I think once I do, so I've got, one colour block, two colour blocks. Once I've done the third, I think it's when I do the fourth one, that's when I start doing the armhole shaping. So it's really getting there. I could definitely get this finished before December. I'm not saying I will, but it's possible. It's still surprisingly warm here. We have had some really, really cold evenings. It's been down to it's been to freezing and there has been frost, but that was quite short-lived, and then it's kind of come to like a unseasonably warm but like very, very humid, uncomfortable kind of weather. But winter is coming and this will be getting worn. I can assure you. I'm starting to get a little bit concerned about size though. I'm worried that it could be a little bit snug. And I did swatch. I did knit a gauge swatch for this, but I knit it and then I washed it. I sat it on my dining table whilst I think I was putting dishes in the dishwasher. And the puppy stole it and just ripped it to pieces. So I never really properly done a gauge swatch, but this all happened. It was the day before we were leaving to go on holiday, and I was wanting to cast this on and start it on holiday. So I just kind of went, I'm not doing another gauge swatch. I just want to get it started. Which was maybe a bit silly because it is potentially coming up a little bit snug, but obviously it's not been washed and blocked yet, and I don't know how much it's going to grow when it gets washed and blocked because I never got that far with my gauge swatch. But I have also gained a lot of weight since I cast this on, so there's many issues there, but it's a well fit. It definitely well fit. I've kind of, roughly kind of tried it on, kind of stretched it over. It well fit. Could just be a little bit on the snug side, but I'm very hopeful that with blocking, it will kind of fit. But either way, I'm getting there. I'm just trucking away, adding a few rows on every now and then. It's got to that kind of like awkward size stage that it's not, like when I'm turning it round, it's kind of a bit of a process, and then there's yarn getting tangled everywhere. So what I've been doing is just using little progress keepers, little stitch markers, and the front rather, I'm like rolling up and I'm tacking it down just so that it's a bit more compact, a bit more movable, just to make it a little bit more annoying. No, a little bit less annoying. I tend to do that with blankets that I'm working on. Once I get to a certain size, that it becomes just a bit unwieldy, manoeuvring it around whilst you're working on it. I just tack it down, just make it a bit more compact and a bit more movable. So that's my officer sweater. I cast on another sock. So I believe, yes, I showed this yarn off on the last project update video. This is the, I hadn't decided a name. So this one I called Showtime, and this is a self-striping Halloween yarn that I done. It was obviously really, really Beetlejuice inspired. I couldn't resist stealing one of those skeins for myself, and I cast this on. I started off making good progress, and I kind of thought, I might actually get a pair done of these before Halloween, but that didn't happen. It's now the 2nd of November, and I'm still on the first sock. But I'm really, really happy with how this yarn has turned out. The colours are brilliant. I was a little bit apprehensive when I was thinking about the colourway. I definitely wanted to have a bright green just for the kind of pop factor. But when I was thinking about adding the kind of darker teal to make it a bit murkier, I kind of thought, I was a bit worried that it wouldn't be attractive. I thought it would actually look like a murky yarn and not clean. But I think it looks great. Having the kind of darker teal running through the bright green, I think it looks wonderful, and it's kind of true to the source material. So I've finished the heel, and now I'm just working on the foot because I'm doing these cuff down. I'm doing these on 2.25mm Chow needles, which are my current favourite sock needles. But the West Yorkshire spinner socks that I finished last time, I mentioned they were a little bit snug. They fit perfectly, they were fine. But so what I've done for these ones, you won't be able to see, you maybe can a little bit. So a little bit before I started the heel, every second row I started doing an increase. So it increased by 6 stitches, and this was just at the back. So I'm doing it either side. I believe it's over, yes, over the white stripe. Every second row I added a stitch at either end. And then knit the heel, so the heel itself becomes just a little bit bigger. That just makes getting the sock on and off a little bit easier. And then after the heel, still in the, no, I've done it in the green actually. I've then done a decrease at each end every second row just to kind of gradually get it back to the usual size. And I have done this before, and it does make kind of sliding the sock on and off a little bit easier, but because the rest of the sock is the same size, everything stays put when it's on. Because I do 64 stitches, but when I have gone larger on the overall sock, I've ended up with kind of like saggy socks, and there is nothing enjoyable about wearing a saggy sock. It's quite a horrible feeling, especially if you're like wearing them to work and you're like walking around the whole day, and you have like I walk maybe 25 minutes. Like I get the bus to work, but there's like maybe 25 minutes of walking before the bus and after the bus. It's not the same back, but yeah, so like by the time you get to work, you've already had to like fish the sock from out from underneath your foot like 4 times, and it's not a fun fun experience. So yeah, this is my compromise. If I make the heel just a little bit bigger, it just makes getting the sock on and off a little bit easier, and it fits perfect. So yeah, so that is my Showtime socks. I'm really, really happy with them. The striping has actually worked out quite well. This wasn't planned because I don't plan anything. But I've not actually broken the stripe pattern because the 2 stripes happened on either side of the heel, which is pretty fun. This is obviously larger, but that's fine. If it did break the striping pattern, I wouldn't be fussed. It's a sock. I'm not concerned about it. The cleanest way, which I do sometimes do, is to just do a contrasting heel and just use a separate yarn or a separate part of the skein. But that's a lot of hassle, and although I love socks, and especially my hand knit socks, I adore them, I enjoy making them, but I'm very pragmatic about it. It's a sock. It's going to be on my foot, in my shoe for a lot of the time. The stripe pattern breaking at the heel is not an issue. It really doesn't faze me, but it is quite nice when it just works out pretty perfectly. So that's all my proper whips, maybe. So what I'll talk about now is some of the things that I'm planning for the future. I mentioned that I've been feeling overwhelmed by everything lately, and one of the things that's been making me feel that way is just the amount of yarn and craft materials that I've got. I don't have a crazy huge stash of yarn, but I have a lot that's not getting used, and I've been finding recently, the past year or so, that, you know, when I am starting new projects, it's with new yarn, and I'm like, but I've got so much yarn already that I want to use. So what I did was I took my whole stash out, and I did take a picture, I'll try and include that here if I can figure that out. I took my whole stash out of storage and laid it all out and just kind of thought, what can I do with you? And I tend to buy single skeins of things. I think a lot of us do. It's, you know, I don't really buy yarn with a plan. I'm pretty much an impulse buyer at the best of times. So I have a lot of single skeins that are all beautiful and stunning and lovely. But it's then what do I do with that? I don't really need more socks. I have a lot of sock yarn in that stash as well. But yeah, so what I'm thinking of doing with some of the single skeins, they look lovely together in a kind of fadey way, but they're not really gonna fade. So what I think I might do with some of them is they're all 4-ply. I tend to only buy 4-ply. So I think I might do is hold some of the hand-dyed 4-ply with a neutral, and make like a double neck cardigan that's, maybe got 4 different skeins, 4 different colorways, but married with the same neutral all throughout, so it kind of is a bit more cohesive. That's the plan. But there's also Lopi. So Lopi is what I used for the plant pot sweater. I inherited that from a friend who had wanted to make a Lopi sweater and decided that they do not actually want a Lopi sweater. And at the time I wanted to make a Lopi sweater. I have decided that I don't want to make a Lopi sweater either. I love the look of them, but I just don't really see myself actually wearing one. I tend to run pretty hot, and these Lopi is a really, really warm wool. It's kind of meant as an outer layer, I believe. Well, it's not meant as an outer layer. I believe it's typically worn as an outer layer. It's just, I don't see me, reaching for a Lopi sweater to wear on a regular basis. They are stunning. They really are beautiful garments, but I don't see me wanting one. So one thing I'm planning on doing is throwing all of the Lopi that I have into a weaving project to make like a rug for my studio. As I've said before, winter is coming. Heating the studio is expensive. It's really expensive. And the studio itself is built on decking in my back garden. And so because of that, you get a lot of cold air coming up from underneath the floor. So I'm kind of thinking of ways to insulate the studio even further. There is insulation in the walls and the ceiling, but the actual underneath is pretty exposed. So I'm going to try and weave a Lopi rug for the studio. And the way I'm going to do that is I have an 80cm wide loom. I would like something wider than that. So there is a way that you can weave double width on a rigid heddle loom that's called double weave. But that involves using 2 heddles the exact same size. There is ways around them being the same size, but that's far too complicated for me. But I also know that I'm not really going to want to do many double width projects. It's something I kind of just want to try out. So I don't really want to buy another heddle the same size as a heddle I've already got, because it's just not going to get used and it's going to take up space. So I have a variable dent heddle where the top comes off and you can pop in little segments like this. And I found 3D print files for heddles that fit this perfectly, and they're the same size that I want for a heddle that I already own. So 3D printed this whole thing, and that's my kind of way around that. So I'm not going to start that anytime super soon, just because the Lopi yarn itself is a single, it's not a super strong yarn. So what I'm doing just now is I'm actually running this through my spinning wheel as a single, so that there's just a bit more twist in the yarn, and then I'm applying it just to make it a bit stronger so that it can actually withstand the weaving process. Because using it as warp, it would just snap if I didn't do these other steps. I'm still considering using something else as warp, something that's already stronger, and so that the weft can go further. But I don't know. I'm still in the planning stages for that. But my next weaving project, I'm ready to go. And my plan is actually, as soon as I'm done recording this, is I'm going to warp up and get started. But this was the rare occasion that I bought yarn with an intention. So this is just Cascade 220, I believe. It's not something I see common over here. Yeah, Cascade 220. And I've got 2 skeins of each of these in a grey, and I wouldn't say it's a navy blue. It's a bit more, it's not as dark as navy, but it's not like a royal blue. It's somewhere kind of in between. I bought these 2 years ago. Well, it'll be coming up for 2 years ago. Not long after I bought my loom, with the intention to weave a scarf for my partner, because he enjoys these colours. Our whole house are these kind of colours. But I just never got around to it. So my plan is this is going to be a Christmas present for my partner. It's not going to be a big secret, because I have a 80 centimetre wide loom. It's not exactly discreet. But yeah, so I'm going to get this warped up once I'm done here. I've already wound the other 2 skeins into balls. They were next to me. They have now migrated to the netherworld. I'll need to find them. But yeah, so that's that project, and there's something I've already kind of started. I don't know if I can even call it a project yet. I appear to have lost that as well. Here it is. So this is, it's a ball of yarn at the moment. I was on the Instructables website recently. I don't even remember what I originally went on there for. I think it was a 3D print thing. Who knows? And then there was just something caught my eye called Singladables. I think that's how you pronounce it. So it's basically a way to use up scrap yarn, and I have a lot of scrap yarn, especially now that I weave. And it's a way to make a decorative ball, but it's like perfectly functional as a toy for children or animals. So the very core of this is using the loom waste that I've got. So that's kind of the end pieces where you cut off and you're left with yarn on it. So, you know, these are lengths of yarn that are maybe that long. There's not a whole lot you can do with that. Even if I was to like tie them all together, there would be more knots than there would be yarn. So I have it's actually the loom waste from this has been scrunched up into a ball, and then I have wrapped around that with other scrap yarn to kind of make it a bit more cohesive, a bit denser and a bit stronger. And then where the Singlada ball comes in is I'll then be stitching around this to make it a little bit decorative using contrasting colours. But I'll be using all wool yarn. My plan is to run this through the washing machine and try and felt it so that it all fuses together, and then use this as a ball for Juno the dog. We shall see. This was just a random, I came across an article on the internet and ran with it, and it's kind of how most aspects of my life happen. But yeah, it looks quite fun to make. It looks quite chill. I'll update you on that. We'll see where this goes. I might do it once and never want to do it again. We shall see. So I think that's everything I have to show you. Yeah, that's me. Thanks for watching this month's delayed project update video. As I said towards the beginning, I'm hoping going forward to be able to post these at the end of the month, but we'll just see what happens. I have very limited control over my schedule, so we shall see. But yes, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.